Alright, in today's video, we are going to cover packing a gun. In this case, specifically pistols and revolvers. Maybe in one of my next videos, I'll cover rifles too. But I've been getting a lot of questions and I want to try to answer them. So I'm going to have three topics to try to cover. Mostly, why do we even pack them? A lot of people are confused on this idea. And it mostly just comes because they don't understand our area, the range we're running. And another one, what am I looking for when I got a rig like this? What do I want to see? Why did I design it in this manner? How's it useful? And then lastly, how do I pack it? Number one question I've been getting, a lot of people are wondering, why do I do left side carry, right hand draw? So I'm going to cover all that in this video today. Starting off with why do we do it? Well, a lot of people just don't realize that the open range even still exists. When they think ranching, they usually think farming, but a little more with horses. And that's pretty well not the case. The cows are turned loose on the summer range. There's miles and miles of it. It's unfenced. They're out there with other ranchers' cows. And come fall, we got to do our gathering, our rounding up. So we spend a lot of time in some really remote country. You know, we're 40 miles from the nearest gas station just here at the house. And then we're 20 miles from cell phone service. So if you get into trouble, you're pretty well on your own. So while self-defense is always on our minds when you're having a gun, you want to be able to defend yourself or those around you, what they're going to be used more for is what I would use the term for utility. You know, things happen. Predators are a problem. Predators come after our cows. We want to try to defend them as much as we can. Of course, if I'm going to be knowingly going in a place where we think there's coyote trouble, bear trouble, I'm going to be taking a rifle with me. But sometimes in a pinch, something like this will work. Also, another thing is stuff happens. You get 1,200 cows in this permit there behind the house, and you know, accidents are going to happen. Animals are going to get hurt. And in our high country, we also have a lot of brisket. So you might have to put a cow down with brisket, a broke leg, split pelvis. You never know what you might come up against. And then one that people don't think about a lot is we have a really high moose population currently. I actually see moose more commonly than I see elk. And moose and horses just don't mix. Moose and, I guess, everything doesn't mix very well. But when we're doing our gathering, we're staying up at our cow camps in the high country. That's right when the moose are running. And one of the ranches that we're kind of tied into, they had a bull moose come down and killed two of their mares while he was rutting. So that kind of made us stay pretty vigilant, like to have a gun on us. And you know, they say, the guides in Alaska that we knew said that a moose would actually sexually assault a horse while they're rutting. So, you know, when we're camped out, we just want to be vigilant about stuff like that, not have animals coming in and killing our horses. Then, what do I want to see in a rig like this? What am I looking for? Well, the number one thing is I want a Mexican loop holster just like this one. This holster is actually off the pattern of an early 1900s Heiser. So it's Mexican loop. It's all one piece of leather. There's no stitching holding the holster to the belt. It's all just one piece of leather that has been folded and tucked back through itself to make the belt loop. So if you're going to rip it out, you got to rip out all this 10-ounce leather instead of just wearing your stitching out. And I like that. Another thing from the Heiser holster is that the hammer and the trigger are both covered and protected. So whether you're riding brush or whatever, nothing's going to be slapping your hammer, causing an accidental fire. And I like that. That's also why we got to carrying them butt forward. That's kind of an old cowboy thing. Butt forward was so that your butt is not taking the brush. I also want to see no bullet loops along the back. I want them off, favoring to one side, just so that they're not rubbing on the cantle on my saddle, maybe pushing one of them out every once in a while. Plus, they're easier to get to on my hip. This one is been lined with rough out leather on the back, so it stays up pretty nicely. I've been around some that don't, and I always want to slide down. So I like that about them too. Then a tie-down strap. A tie-down strap is not for quick draw. It's not for, you know, this whole Hollywood idea. What it does for me, they're not even historical, but what it does for me is it allows me to be pretty active and hold my gun solid. A lot of people will remember the old Beretta M9 holsters that the military had for a long time. They kind of called them the bucket holster. And it had that strap that goes low around your leg and buckled together. Well, it's the same idea. I just don't want my gun to be flopping around while I'm doing much. This holster's built extremely nice, pretty heavy leather. It doesn't want to flop much, but I still like the idea if I'm charging through brush, it's solid with me, not going to be a problem. Now, why do I pack it butt forward? A lot of people have been asking me this question. And it's not only so that the butt takes the brush, it's because everything that I'm going to be doing on a horse after I get on is from my right side. So whether I'm roping, being as I'm right-handed, or I'm leading a pack horse, that's all going to be done from the right side. So whether I've roped a calf, I've got my dally and I've turned to drag him and that rope is cutting back across my hip, or I'm leading a pack horse, which we break a lot of our horses this way, just making them pack for us, and it decides to pull back or something goes wrong, the gun is out of the way, it's not going to get hooked by anything. Another kind of cool reason, just not really a reason, but a plus to it, is it's accessible from either hand. You can cross draw your gun, or you can underhand draw your gun. So that's kind of a nice deal. Plus having the brush totally away. The brush is not hitting your hammer. Your hammer and your trigger are protected with the butt forward. But then, you know, maybe I'm going on a day, I don't want to have a whole belt with me. One thing I'll do a lot, and lots of people don't get strap belts put on their holsters like this, but I like them, is I can just pull my gun off and I can add it to either side of my straps, which is a handy deal. For some reason, maybe, you know, I'm going camping, I don't really want to take a holster with me or a gun belt with me. I want to just have my bare necessities for a long trip. Well, I can just throw the holster on a set of straps. I'm set to go, and I can do this on either side. So kind of a cool idea. Also, I can always just turn my gun belt around and mount the gun forward on this side, turn my bullet loops over, and then I got just a normal mount. Normal right hand draw. So that's kind of a cool idea. Kind of why I've got them built like this. They just work the best for me set up like this.